Now we are live. So welcome everybody. This is SAT's Atheist Hangout or Atheist and Skeptic Hangout. Today our discussion is about the evangelist, whether evangelist is good. So, and we are going to discuss what is evangelist or what is about the preaching. Why do religions have privilege in preaching in public? And mostly Christianity, because it's where we are based on. So, and I want to hear some view from the members. So if you have something to say, you can just give what we shall start with the definition of what is evangelist. And if you have a alternative name for Islamic, you can also give. So let's start with the definition. What is evangelist, or what is preaching in the public, and why? Let's start with my own definition. Evangelism is the art of sharing the Christian gospel, or in quote, the good news. The gospel is called the good news in quote. I don't know why it's called good news. So, about Jesus Christ with others. The aim of evangelists is to persuade people to accept the Christianity faith or to convert them to become Christian. Intention of convincing others to embrace Christian belief and become follower of Jesus. That is the main aim. And they do it in public. They can do it in television or social media, where they can be able to reach the wider audience. What motivates the Christian to do evangelist or to preach in public or try to reach the gospel, to make the gospel reach to others who are not part of them or who are not Christian? It's because they are tested, like in book of Matthew chapter 28 verse 19 and verse 20, where Jesus instructed his follower to go and make disciples. So that is the main theme or the main agenda or the main motive why they keep trying to push or to preach to other people, because they are trying to make them the follower of Jesus, just to try to obey what their text say, according to the Matthew 28 verse 19. So there is also this of the Islamic. Islamic is not kind of evangelist, because they don't do as the Christian does, and it's called dawah. Dawah literally means invitation. Invitation is the way which Muslims share their belief with the others. Like evangelists in Christianity, the purpose of dawah is to invite people to embrace the Islamic faith and its teaching. Muslims believe they have a reasonable responsibility. They believe they have responsibility to share what they believe to be the truth with the others. The message of dawah is the invitation to submit to the will of Allah, the will of God. That is according to Muslims. So also Muslims, they do somehow evangelist, but for them, they call it as dawah. I want to hear your perspective about this definition, or about what is your view about evangelism or about this dawah. So Morioki?
Thanks, Dano. For me, what I'll say, I think in the past, they were genuine. These were preachers who are actually trying to teach the gospel. But now, it's all about money. You know, money is so important nowadays. Money runs our lives. So nowadays, there are very few who are genuine. Now they preach just for money. Thanks.
Okay, fine. Muriloki, you have come with another perspective. And I think you are focusing most of the people who are preaching in person, in public area, and also in the buses or matatus, where they ask for some offering to bless the man of God or to bless the woman of God. So for that perspective, we can say they are trying to get a living, or they are earning a living through that kind of somehow evangelist. So we also, there is also a certain, is somehow kind of evangelist where we find many churches, instead of concentrating with the member who are inside the church or inside that building, they bring up the big speakers so that the sound can reach to people surrounding that church. That to me is also kind of evangelist, because they are trying to make the people around to hear what they are teaching or what they are talking about. So that is also as somehow evangelist, by trying to make the neighbors hear what they are doing. Another person, or we can move. Okay, Dorcas, then we can go to the next question.
My phone is really acting up. I hope it will behave because it's hanging. What question are we answering again, Stano?
We are still on definition.
Oh, okay. The definition of evangelism. Let me turn on my video. Yes, evangelism. I think your definition is right on the money. From how I understand evangelism, it is preaching to others a religious message with the intention of converting them to your faith. Yeah, and this one is common predominantly in monotheistic religions. Islam and Christianity. With Judaism, I'm not so sure. Whether they evangelize. But Islam and Christianity tend to be very keen on evangelism because they assume that they have a monopoly on the truth, that what they believe is the truth, and all other gods are a lie. So it is their responsibility to share this message with others. Additionally, they do it, I know maybe we'll get into it in more detail. Why do people evangelize? Or can I address it now, Stano?
Yes, proceed.
Okay, yeah. So another reason, so the first reason that people evangelize is because they belong to a monotheistic religion where God commands you to only worship him and him alone. So any other gods are perceived to be false gods. And it is your responsibility as a believer to go and challenge those gods or replace those false gods with the true God. That's one reason. Another reason is because of the issue that is at stake. You see, these people are fighting to save your soul. They believe that where you will spend eternity is going to be determined by which God you worship. So some of them are really keen on saving your soul. That is why they share the message. The final reason is because it has been commissioned. They have been commissioned to do so. And to me, actually, this is a testament of the falsehood of these religions. If God existed, he wouldn't need mere mortals, mere human beings to pass on a very crucial message like that he exists and that people should believe in him. He would have done it himself. He wouldn't need to pass that back to very fragile and inept characters to do it on his behalf. But yes, there's been a great commission, and Stano read one verse. Let me see whether I can access the others. For Christianity, that is. I know Islam also has, but I don't have the verses. I don't have the verses for the Quran. In Islam, you invite somebody to join the faith, and then it's very intellectual the way they present it, and they do such a good PR exercise of whitewashing Islam. But then once you enter, you can't leave because there are apostasy laws in the Quran. So it's a trap for Islam. Now for Christianity, there's that verse that Stano read of, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age." So that one is very important, to make disciples of men. Another one that is often used is Mark 16:15, which says, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation." We also have Acts 1:8, "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in Judea and Samaria and to the end of the earth." So God calls upon believers, or Jesus rather, it's Jesus, who calls upon believers to be his witnesses in other parts of the world. And then we have 2 Corinthians 5:20, "We are therefore Christ's ambassadors, as though God were making his appeal through us. We plead with you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God." So there's that aspect of them thinking of themselves as ambassadors. So that's one dimension. Those are the justifications for evangelism or preaching, and where it happens or how it manifests. As Stano has said, in public, we can also have social media now. It's become a really big thing these days, or television back in the analog days. And we also have certain denominations that emphasize evangelism a lot. There are other denominations that are lackluster about it, for instance, Catholics or Anglicans, because they're already established and they already have certain mechanisms to grow their flock. But with the newer, more charismatic denominations, there's a lot of preaching. And there are also others that are perceived to be cults. For instance, the Jehovah Witnesses, they even call themselves that they're witnesses of Jehovah, and they start young. In fact, maybe we'll go into those details of the ethics of using children to evangelize. So Jehovah Witnesses and Mormons, with Mormons, we see them wearing white shirts. Usually they are young men who go to a different part of the world, and they go door to door. Yeah, we have those door to door. So there are those denominations. And then there are also other denominations that just call you to share the gospel of the Lord with the people around you. So you might be in a gym and somebody asks you, "Do you know God? Yeah, do you believe in him?" And they start doing that. Or you could be at a park for me personally, I have been approached by several people in parks because I love the outdoors. They have approached me. So it's just their personal honors. They're not doing it on behalf of some institution. They are taking the Great Commission personally. So I know I've spoken a lot, but I think that would be a good starting ground. Thank you.
That is a very nice and good points. Let's hear from Eston.
Okay, thank you. So, of course, evangelism is this public preaching of these gods or the religious gods. And first of all, I would like to disagree with Murioki when he said that I don't know evangelism used to be genuine, but now it has turned into a business. Murioki, evangelism has never been genuine in any way or form. It has never been genuine. It has always been about money. Even when I remember when Martin Luther translated the Bible for the first time into German. I don't know if so from which book. It was all about money. Yeah? It was okay. Not he. Martin Luther was okay. He was not influenced because of money, but he was influenced because those Catholics priests were making it all about money, selling people. I don't know what buying. I don't know. People paying for money so that their sins can be washed away and those they can go to heaven. It has always been about money. And this evangelist, when they are evangelizing, they always tell you, God told me to tell you this. Which God? There is nothing that those are just stories. They just tell themselves things in their heads, and then they come and tell the congregation, hey, God told me this and that. God told me this and that. That is a lie. That is not genuine. So it has never, evangelism, it has never ever been genuine in any year, any way or form. It has never. And also, I like to say also this. I think Christians are the worst evangelicals. They are the worst evangelicals. They are the worst. You know, for me, there's this saying that says, this common saying that says, action speaks louder than words. You know, the Christians, they go evangelizing. I don't know the name of Jesus, but their actions are totally the opposite. That's why it is very, very hard. It is even a miracle. Even it is a miracle that it is more likely for it to rain in the desert than in hearing a Muslim converting to Christianity or a Nazi converting back to Christianity than the other way around. Why? It's because the Christians they don't walk the talk. All they do is evangelize through the mouth, but not through the actions. At least Muslims, to a certain extent, they also evangelize through the act. But Christians, for me, they are the worst. They just talk, but they don't walk the talk. That's why I say they are the worst evangelicals. Okay, can they say that for now? Then and I also tell you my atheism evangelism story. Thank you.
Okay, fine, thank you. So, Morioki?
Thanks, Dano. Okay, based on what El Maestro said, I don't know, in school, El Maestro, was there a CU in your school? A Christian Union in your school? Was it there? CU?
Yes, it was there.
And was that genuine to you?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't genuine.
Even in school?
Even in school, they're just trained. Of course,
But
it wasn't
what's
genuine.
the gain? but there's no money. In our school, they got no money. I remember in high school, they were just preaching with no money, just preaching. So you can join the Christian Union. No money was
Of
being
course,
given.
of course, that's what do they want to gain? So that people can join the Christian Union. There is something
Yes,
that is
yes,
driving them.
yes.
It's not genuine. They are not looking to they're not genuinely looking for people to save people. They're looking for numbers. You see, numbers, and also that's
But
some are just doing that for show off, showing to others that they can preach. You know the way people, the way Christians they worship this pastor. So others were just going there to show off that they can preach, so that they can show others that they can preach. And as a matter of fact, I'm guilty.
El Maestro, see, I think
Yes.
that's debatable. Lama, that's
No, it is
debatable. You
true.
can't be
It is
sure
not
whether
debatable.
they are
It
genuine
is
or
no,
what you're saying.
no.
We can debate on that.
That was genuine. It is not even
Yeah,
debatable.
okay.
It has never been genuine.
Fine. So I think that I have a different opinion to that of Mastro. So for me, I think people are genuine, and in fact, that is our now point that we are going to discuss. Do you think those who do evangelists are genuine? So if you are not genuine, it means you are either pretender for a certain mission or for a certain, because you of self-gain, selfish. So do you think those who do evangelists are genuine or no? Then you can combine it with this. What motivates the evangelist to keep preaching in public? Do you think are what motivate them to preach in public? Even though somehow we attach that in our definition. So yeah, pragmatics.
All right. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yeah, continue. Thank you.
Well, I joined the meeting just a few minutes ago. I am not sure how far you had gone, but I found Eston speaking, and maybe I should begin by responding to his points and saying that I think his submissions are not all true. The argument that evangelism has never been genuine is somehow misguided, because even today, I do believe there are some people who actually preach the gospel genuinely. Yes, they are preaching it from a point of deception, maybe from a point of delusion, but in their hearts, they are doing the right thing and they are just preaching it for that. Not because they want any financial gains, not because they want any gains of any sort, but in their hearts, they are doing it for the sake of quote unquote winning souls for Christ. That's all. So, and connecting that to the current question, I believe the question was if evangelists even today are genuine. I do believe in actual sense, I do believe if you look at, there was some sort of a hierarchy in church. I don't know what to call it, but there was some, it was called the fivefold ministry. I can't remember all of them, but there is an evangelist, there is an apostle, there is a pastor, there is a bishop, I can't remember, and there is a teacher. When you look at those five groups, I do think that evangelists are some of the most genuine of all the five ministries. the evangelism ministry is one that actually has what you could call selfless people, the most of them, because like Moriuki asked a few minutes ago, what about school? Back in college, I was actually a very fierce evangelist. And we would go to high schools. We are not looking for brown envelopes. We are not looking for money. We are not looking for anything, just spreading the love of Christ, quote unquote. So all that is to say in lengthy or in many words that truly there are some genuine evangelists. Yes, there are others who are out there wenye tunapata huku Kamukunji, some of them in buses, some of them I don't know where. They're just looking for that coin, some of them. But others are actually, even today, there are some who are genuinely preaching the gospel. Yes, it's not, I don't know how to put it, but it's not whatever they are preaching is probably not true, but they believe it and they are doing it genuinely from their hearts. On the other hand, true, there are those who are after certain gains. I think that's what I would that's what would be my contribution.
But on that, do you think those who collect some coins, some few coins while they are preaching, they are also not, they are also genuine, because maybe they are trying to earn a living while they are trying to reach to many?
Right. Those who collect, some of them might also be genuine, I think, because there is a very genuine argument we can make of that, right? From every day, this is what I do. I don't have any other job, for example, but I believe in my heart that I'm doing the right thing, which is reaching people with the gospel of Christ. How am I supposed to survive? So again, the argument is probably founded on falsehood. It's probably founded on wrong beliefs, but they do believe it and they are genuinely doing it. So yes, there could be those who are collecting a coin, but also being genuine at the same time. It doesn't really mean that those who accept offerings are straight up in being ingenuous. Some of them could be niwakora, or some of them could be I don't know what to put, how to put that in English, but some of them could be genuine, others could not be. So collecting of offerings or of coins is not necessarily a sign of not being genuine. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that is very good. So I think, Eston, you have also heard the different opinion. You can also, comment about that later. So let's hear from Dorcas.
Yes, I think it's nuanced. I think you can't say that all evangelists are disingenuous or all evangelists are honest. I echo pragmatist statements. I think we have representation across the board. So yes, you guys have given examples of the ones that are legitimate. They really believe their own BS. And they feel that it is their honors, it's their responsibility. The greatest job they can do on this earth is to save another soul. And yeah, they are sharing that message. Now, we also have the disingenuous ones, the ones that do it for money, like the televangelists. A lot of televangelists are in it for the dough. We also have people who do it for power and influence, not just money. I know of several podcasts or YouTubers who base their channels, they are Christians, and they're very radical for the Lord, but they base their channel on street evangelism. So you will see titles like Christian Destroys Atheist Argument, or Christian proves that atheists are deluded in this street debate or this street discussion. So such people might not necessarily be interested in the money per se, but it could be the clout, and they will use different tactics which are dishonest. You know, after you do it for a while, in fact, there's this particular Christian, he's been old school, he's been a street preacher from way back. He's called Ray Comfort. He's an Australian, but I think he relocated to the States. And back in the day when I used to watch family TV, Ray Comfort was busy showing Christians how to evangelize. And if you've been doing it for that long, surely you will come across good arguments against your God. And if you're objective, you will be open to it. You'll realize, guy, anyway, this person, this atheist, or even this Muslim, by the way, Muslims are very good at countering Christian talking points. This Muslim is making a really good point about the Trinity. How can you be three in one? How can you be a son and be the Father again? And then what is this concept of a Holy Spirit? It's like it's a ghost, but then it's there, it exists, it's everywhere and nowhere at the same time. You know, so a Muslim will challenge the Christian belief system, and if you are really listening objectively, you will admit that there is some shaky ground on which you're standing. But these people, Ray Comfort, if you've listened to some of his debates or his street preachings from different channels that show you the whole exchange, you see that he's engaging dishonestly. He's doing it in order to make himself look good. Yeah, they use different tactics. And in fact, I hope, Mr. Moderator, one of the talking points or one of the discussion points will be, what kind of methods or strategies do people use to evangelize, and what are the effects, what are the repercussions of evangelism? Because that's what I'm really interested in as we go forward. Yeah. So basically, in summary, we have representation from both sides. We have legitimate cases and we have dishonest cases, as I have just mentioned. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So those are very good points. So I want us to look with another perspective about atheist or non-believer. Do we also do some kind of evangelist? So let's first of all answer that question before we go to the next, where we are going to discuss whether the evangelists should be banned or should be allowed to express their worldview. So let's hear from Murioki, then Eston. And as you answer that, do you also think we are genuine in whatever we are doing? If we are doing somehow evangelist, do you think we are doing it genuinely or in a... Murioki, you are breaking, or is my...
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
proceed.
Yeah. I think for me, what I'll say, like last time, I had a talk, I had a talk with Dockers about the children's home. I told that it's not a must we tell them that we're atheists. Let's just go and do our thing, then we go home. Just we help the kids, then we go home. Although Dockers insisted that the kids should know we're atheists, but the admin said that the admin say that no, just go be the kids and go home. So I think if we insist that they should know we're atheists, we're doing some evangelizing now. That's evangelism. If we insist that they have to know we're atheists, that's a kind of evangelism, because we can just go help them and we go home. Thanks.
Okay, Morioki, there I will disagree with you. Telling somebody you are Morioki, that is not evangelist. You are just informing that person who you are. So if you say you are Kenyan or you are Kenyan citizen, that does not mean you are doing some things. So if we go and identify ourselves, we are Christian or we are Muslim or we are atheist, that is not the kind of the evangelist. Evangelist is when you engage in those kind of discussion, trying to persuade them to know your or to understand your point or to come to your side. When you are trying to persuade, that is the kind of evangelist. But when you are just giving them your identity, that is not evangelist.
But Stano, if you say you're an atheist, I'm sure they'll ask questions. Definitely, they'll ask questions. They'll be curious. So in the process, you end up saying who you are, what you do, what you believe. So in the end, it become like automatically evangelizing. Automatically, it will come automatically. What do you think?
Can I respond, Stano?
Wait.
To that, just
Morioki.
two sentences.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
Morioki, it does not follow. You saying what you believe doesn't necessarily mean that the person will ask you questions and then you start preaching to them. No, it does. You are assuming, you are jumping to a conclusion. It doesn't follow. Just saying who you are doesn't mean that now it will degenerate into some sort of discussion, preaching, etc. No, you're just saying who you are and that's it.
Yeah, fine. That is what I wanted to say, but with a different angle by saying, do you think somebody, when he come and he say, I'm a Christian, do you think that is kind of the evangelist? Morioki?
No, because Christians, as we are rare. Yeah, as we are rare. It's us, we're very rare atheists. We are rare. So I'm sure that they'll be curious to know, hey, who are these? Who are these people? You know, I'm sure that they'll be curious.
Okay, that means it's the one trying to push you to become evangelist, but it's not you willing to become an evangelist. So that is not your fault. That is not your fault. And those points will come later to them. How we can be involved in a mature discussion instead of trying to impose or trying to force your view to the people, but you first of all look whether that person whether is interested with your discussion, so that you're able to proceed with the discussing. Not like some evangelists that they come and they try to preach, and when you try to oppose, they start shouting to you, calling you demons. So we must first of all have a concept to the person that we are talking to or discussing to. Let's hear from Eston.
Okay. Okay, I've had your opinions on whether it is this evangelism is genuine or not. Okay, maybe somehow I'm convinced it might be genuine, but you know, when I think of how they evangelize, something just comes to my, something just tell me these people are not genuine, but it's okay. So you asked if atheists evangelize.
But before that, Eston,
Yeah.
I was one of them. I preached
You are
across the
genuine.
country. I was genuine. Yeah,
Hey.
and I was using my own money in those crusades
Okay.
and the
And
mission.
what was your what
Yeah,
was
and my
your end
fellow
game?
Colin were also genuine. Yeah?
What was your end game? What was your end game?
My end game is to win the soul to the Christ. That was my aim,
So
because I was called to preach to the people to come to the kingdom. So my aim game is to get a reward in heaven, not here on earth. And that is why I was sacrificing my resources. And when I don't have something, I could go and buy food to reach to many people. And also, I had many people who were genuine. Even today, I know there is many are genuine. Only a few are after money or after other things like fame. I proceed.
Okay. So you've also asked if atheists evangelize. So I think I was one of them, but it only lasted 1 week. So when you are still in AIK, I don't know who was the person okay, it was in the godless corner. Then I don't know who said that you should tell other people atheism, so that we normalize it. Yeah, we normalize it. At that time I was still studying in MKU. So I said, oh, okay, that can be a good idea for me. I thought it was a good idea. Then I started the first week. I don't know, when I was just when I hear anyone talking about I don't know Jesus, I just okay, or even if I just see someone just sitting alone in school now, I was just approaching them and just sarcastically asking them, "Have you heard about Jesus?" You know, now using that reverse psychology. Now when I ask them, do you know about Jesus? They think I want to preach to them about Jesus, but I want to refute the Jesus narrative. So I did that for a whole week. I don't know. I approached. Okay. What this time I not this time I'm looking for. Okay, yes, some I approached directly, some I just approached indirectly, but almost 10 people I approached them, but some even say that they are already at the beach, and I didn't even know. Like two of them, they said that, oh, these are the Bible that I passed me. I used to be a believer, but I left. Oh, I said, okay, good. And I gave them their number, and I added them to. I gave Mumia their number, and they added to IK. You know, these other Christians who they always just end up with, well, believe what you want to believe. What I mean, believe what I want to believe. Oh, but then in the Zoom meeting, I don't know. When I said I've been doing that, some people say that's not what you should be doing. This is not what they should just come natural to them. So I stopped. Actually, the next week I was planning to go and now put posters of AIK in school without anyone knowing. Yeah, but I stopped in 1 week. Mm, But it was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have evangelist here. So that is kind of that is a direct evangelist. If you are trying to convince people and you are the one who are starting the conversation. It's not them who are coming to question you or to try to preach you so that you remember to counterattack, but you are the one who are approaching them. That is a direct evangelist.
As I said, some I was doing it directly and that others indirect. Like we might just be, I might just approach someone, I start talking to them, then I just, I just trigger a conversation where they'll start talking about, I don't know, God will help us, and then I I counterattack in that way.
Yeah, that is evangelist. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay. I know you are muted.
okay, I'm saying we can hear from Dorcas, but before that, okay, I will come to that point later. Let's hear from Dorcas. Oromorioki, you have a question?
Yeah, thanks. Just a quick question to El Maestro. El Maestro, if you see somebody in town alone with speakers preaching without asking for money, can he be ingenuine? He has speakers, he's alone, he just comes and preaches, and then he goes home. Can he be ingenuine? El Maestro.
Okay, it doesn't mean if they are not looking for money, they are joining for it. It does not mean that. For me, it doesn't mean that if someone is preaching and not looking for money, that they're genuine. Of course, their message is littered with the false statements, where they say, I don't know, God told me this, and there some they also preach using lies. I don't know, when I did this and that, and I just prayed and God did this and that. When it was just a mere coincidence, or even they didn't even pray. Christians are the biggest hypocrites that I know. They are the biggest hypocrites. So even believing in their genuinity is so hard.
Okay.
So El Maestro,
Fine.
you're saying it's possible to be genuine with a speaker alone.
Yes.
You are alone.
Yes, it's possible.
It's possible to be genuine still.
Yes, it is.
Okay, fine. Okay, but on that, I will also say sometimes they are being motivated by the scripture. Some scriptures say, if my eye can make many know God, or the name of God to be exhausted, why am I still be condemned as sinner? I think that is Romans chapter 3 from verse 7. So sometimes they can use a lie to try to make people come to the kingdom. And they can use that scripture as a loophole. So let's hear from Dorcas.
I swear this microphone, it likes to misbehave. Me also turn my video. Is it on? Jameen. Technology has refused. Anyway, atheists evangelize. Do atheists evangelize? I think that is debatable. I think it is based on the definition of atheism or of evangelism that you rely on. Now, I know I gave you one definition of evangelism, but I have just seen that the dictionary offers a second one. So the first one is the spreading of the Christian gospel by public preaching or personal witness with the goal of converting someone to their faith. So that one, by definition, it necessarily has religious underpinnings. You must believe in a religious figure for you to do evangelism using that definition. But there's also another definition, which is the zealous advocacy or support of a particular cause. You see, with that definition, any group can be called evangelists. If you care zealously and you advocate for something zealously with vigor and enthusiasm, then you automatically become an evangelist. If you care about veganism and you go around telling people, have you tried veganism? Do you know it is unethical to eat meat, to kill a sentient being for food? It's unethical. You start talking about the food system, blah, 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 blah. You, according to that definition, will be evangelist. Or if you're just maybe a fitness enthusiast, you're a fitness enthusiast and you go to a social gathering somewhere and you start talking to the person beside you about fitness, then you would become an evangelist according to that definition. So I'm caught between a rock and a hard place on which definition to go with, because the first definition necessarily requires you to be advocating for a religious position. And atheists are not a religion. Okay? We are actually just responding to one question and one question alone. Does God exist? Yes or no? So according to the first definition, atheists do not evangelize, but according to the second definition, atheists do evangelize. Now, if we go with that second definition, what El Maestro was doing could definitely fall under it. And I think atheists have this innate fear of looking or sounding like believers. So we detest everything associated with believers, whether it is a good thing or a bad thing. You see, if we go with that second definition of evangelism, which is the zealous advocacy of a particular cause, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. How you do it might be debatable. You know, if you go around shouting and screaming for people in public spaces that are supposed to be for other purposes, then that can be a problem how you do it. But if your cause is a true cause, it's not false, yeah, or even if we disregard the truthfulness of the cause, but the impact of the cause, that the cause would lead to a net positive in society, what's so bad about evangelism, about zealously advocating for a certain position? What's so bad about it? I envision a society where we have more critical thinkers than superstitious thinkers. By extension, if we apply it to the belief in a deity, I would love to live in a society where we have more atheists and fewer believers. So if we can get some people to take the message out there that, hey, it's okay not to believe in a God. It's actually not just okay, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing because the belief in a God leads to several other superstitious ideas which cause harm. There are a lot of negative effects of religion. So if people can discard religion and become atheists, that's a good thing. How we go about it could be the problem, but I think we need not demonize or avoid any tactics that are associated with believers. There are many things that believers get right. The issue of community, we've said it times without number, that believers are really good at forging community. It's usually associated with them. We need not discard community because believers like being associated with it. Okay? So there are lessons we could learn from them. Yeah, there are things that they do wrong in the evangelism which we can avoid, but I think it isn't so bad for atheists to evangelize. Because it will mean that the more atheists evangelize, the more we discard superstitious ideas. I know this is controversial because there are people who are like, live and let live. Yeah, let them continue believing in their delusion, but their delusion affects me. Look at the merger between government and the church. Their delusions affect me. That's why I am torn on this one, and I don't think it's such a bad idea for atheists to evangelize. Let me leave it there for now. Thank you.
So let me ask, will you be comfortable to do evangelist or to inform people about why they should not believe what they believe?
Yes. Yes. In fact, there will be a point where I will show up on television or big podcasts in Kenya, in Africa, to talk about atheism. There will be, but I'm holding back for now since we are not registered yet. But I will look for those opportunities personally. I'm comfortable.
Okay, fine. Let's go to the next topic now. So I think because, is there anyone who have the contrary opinion about atheism be evangelist, or whether some atheists do evangelist, before we move to the next point? Okay, I think we all agree. I have already found Dorcas is somehow evangelist. He advocate for atheism. Eston, me included, I think I'm very vocal. Then I try to start, because sometimes I may find my mouth speak even where it's unnecessary. Let's hear from Juliana.
Hey, so thank you, Stano, and thank you everyone who's contributed. So just listening to everyone talk about evangelizing, and it can be different forms. I know for me, I don't know that I can go to the street and evangelize just like the Christians do, but I can do it in a different way. And I was just thinking, one time we will have enough money or enough sponsors that we can actually take out ads, either in newspapers or even posters you post on around the neighborhood. I know the atheists, I think the atheist, I think it's the free thinkers or the humanist one here especially in Edmonton. Once in a while, I think when they raise money, they take an ad on the side of a bus. Like, so you have, the public transit on the bus. So they take a whole ad and say, there's something like, there's probably no God or atheist. Like, they literally take an ad, and that costs money. So that's another way of sharing once we have money. And since we don't have money, and for me, I'm a closet atheist depending on where I am. So I'm trying to get over that, because one of the things is just to put myself out there, whether among my friends. I think some of my friends know, but not all of them know, especially those religious ones don't know. So if I can get over that, I guess my fear is being not invited to their things anymore once they realize I'm an atheist. So even when I go to their places and they say, let's pray, I am just bowing my head. Actually, no, I'm not bowing my head because Catholic, we don't do that. You just eyes open. So my eyes open, I'm looking at the food as they go through the prayer. When they ask me to pray, I do one generic one. So I'm not quite comfortable there yet. However, the nice thing is at work, nobody asks. And if they do, I tell them and nobody comments. So it's different, but it's the people around us that we have to evangelize. I know the young people. In fact, my friends, young kids, I don't know if they realize those kids are not religious. But of course, they also have to go along with their parents. So those ones, I'm hoping a way to reach out to them, just let them know, hey, I know I'm your mom's friend and or your dad's friend and they're Christian, but I'm not. So if you need to talk about these things, just reach out to me. So finding a way to be able to do that and be comfortable is, I guess, in my case, one way I can sort of evangelize softly and then long for the day when we will have money that we can take out ads, put posters all around the neighborhood, whatever we can do. Thank you.
Great. That is great. So I think we all have that motive of trying to persuade or to convince people why we no longer believe what they believe. And also, we want them to be like us. And if we want them to be like us, we do something called evangelist, just the way Juliana you have said. But we don't have that strong force that can make us to go to the street to preach. Just like the way the religious people does. They do that because they think maybe God is in heaven is going to reward them or to do something, to bless them, whatever. But for us, we know we are trying to do things for a better society, for people to involve in critical thinking. Whenever they are making decisions, they should not involve the magical beings there, or they should not just praying for the solution, but looking for a solution. That is why we are trying to persuade people to be, instead of relying half of their time or a quarter of their time in prayer or of imaginary. And the same thing applies to religious people, just the way we are saying. They are trying to persuade the other people to believe their religion because they think that is only the way that will help the people. So the way we are trying to persuade the other people not to believe those religious things, it's the same. Even religious people are trying to win non-religious and also other religious which are not in the same world view to them. So, and to that, we come to our next point. What are the effects of evangelist? Both positive and negative. You can deal with both of them, both the positive and negative effect of evangelist. What are the effects? That is our next question. I may start by saying one of the effects is to make people be like you. So when you are doing evangelism, you are trying to create people with you. You are trying to create your own society, or you are a group of people with the common belief. If you are one and you try to persuade the other people, you become many people who believe in the same thing. And that is a kind of society you have created your own society or your own worldview. If you are Christian and you are trying to make the other people a Christian, you are trying to extend your worldview to many people. So, and that is a positive way. So, and that positive way, if you are in the wrong way, or if your belief is wrong, you are persuading the many people to be in a wrong worldview. So, and that is a negative effect. But if you are in a positive way, you are causing the people to believe what is good, and that is a good achievement. But each and every person think his or her own worldview is the best. So he or she is trying to convince the other people to be in his or her worldview for the better society, and if it's a religious, to please their God or their imaginary God. So I think each and every person think evangelist is a good thing and is in a positive way. No one think it's a negative way. Just the way Dorcas and Eston have said, you are trying to convince others thinking that is a good thing. So, but for negative, for me, I will say, if what you are telling the people is not evidence-based, then that is a negative work you are doing. So let's hear from people. I think I'm not articulate enough. Dorcas? Or Juliana, you want to continue?
Oh, no, it's okay. I think my hand is down.
Okay.
No worry.
Okay, fine. Dorcas? Okay. I have some thought or some advice about those who are trying to persuade others to believe their worldview or to come to their side.
No.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
There are two people whose hands are raised. There is Morioki and the pragmatist. Mine was not yet raised. I intended to, but my mic is really misbehaving. Yeah, you've not
my
seen
computer.
them.
So I don't see them.
Imagine.
Yeah. Oh, Morioki, you can.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Mura, I'll go to the negative. Just two words: noise pollution. At times they make so much noise. In fact, there's somebody here, country, he comes by himself with a speaker and starts preaching. So noise pollution. Even in public transport, you're in a vehicle, you're quiet, somebody walks in and starts preaching. So that's for me noise pollution. Thanks.
That is a great point. And also, I think other one is about distraction. You create some distraction. So let's hear from pragmatic.
Right. So I think evangelism can have a range of impacts, both positive and negative. And it might also depend on what you are actually evangelizing. So number one, on the positive side, I feel like evangelism can actually contribute to well-being of a person. As an evangelist, when you are spreading the message of your cause, which you believe to be good, whether you are evangelizing atheism or theism, whichever side you are on, that kind of a thing, especially when you manage to convince people to see things from your side, from your point of view, that kind of a thing can bring a sense of fulfillment. And that fulfillment can positively contribute to betterment of personal well-being. That is psychological wellness, because you feel yeah, high five to me. I'm doing a good job out there. So I feel it can contribute to that. Now, on the negative side, especially for groups like non-conventional groups, if so to speak, like us, people who are not subscribing to the generally accepted worldviews, which is mostly theism. For people like us, if you go out there to evangelize, let's say, atheism or even critical thinking or even free thinking, you run the risk of being viewed as some sort of a cult or some sort of, this guy is bringing us the message of the devil. So there is that kind of a risk. We shouldn't live in fear, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it can be an outcome of evangelism. So, for example, our friend Eston, when he was doing his job, or when he was doing that kind of a thing those many years ago, we don't know how many people were left calling him a devil worshiper. We don't know. We don't know how many people were left calling him names, maybe behind his back. So there is always that risk. And finally, no, not finally, second last, evangelism again, especially now if we look at the religious kind of evangelism, it can lead to increased suboptimal messaging, because people are spreading this message by evangelism. That means, if so to speak, it can lead to increased quote unquote misinformation, because that is a result of like the more you spread quote unquote the gospel, the more people know about it. So that is like you are spreading false message. I lack exact words, but I'm sure we understand each other. You are spreading false message. More people are knowing about it. So that's like misinformation. And finally, although I think this is what Muriuki was talking about, evangelism can actually increase strained relationships, or it can increase the chances of strained relationships. For example, if the evangelist is out there making noise, the people who do not appreciate that kind of a thing won't feel good about it. So there is a risk of these two actually rubbing their shoulders the wrong way. I think the same can also happen even if you are not polluting noise, right? Like, for example, if I went to speak to someone about atheism and they are not interested, but I insist on it, that can have the risk of straining our relationship, even if there wasn't one to begin with. So that wouldn't be a good way to start off. So there is that risk of strained relationships, maybe misunderstandings, kukasirikiana, makasiriko. Yeah, that's my submission.
Yeah, that is very good and excellent points, both the negative and the positive way. So, and I think the negative, the person who is doing evangelism might not see the negative, although sometimes as we continue with this debate, we sort of see how we can be able to identify the negative side as deists or atheists are doing evangelist and how to avoid the negative things. Let's hear from Dorcas.
Okay. What are the effects of evangelism? Let me start with the positive and say that when you evangelize, as Pragmatist rightfully said, you increase your membership. because you're telling people about your idea. And I'm trying to turn on my video. You see, no? Oh, good thing. Yeah. So evangelism leads to the spreading of your message, whether it is truthful or false, whatever it is, it increases the number of people that belong to your group. So it is beneficial in that respect. It is also beneficial for the person doing it because it boosts your confidence. Public speaking is no mean feat. Not everybody can do it. So if you're able to engage with somebody publicly and you're able to persuade them to come over to your side, that definitely increases your self-esteem. So it can be beneficial in that respect. And there are also other positive changes that can arise during evangelism, even for Christian evangelism, like what Steve wrote on the chat. He said that there was this person in the mission, or was it a crusade, who was an alcoholic, and he had the gospel message. He quit alcohol, and life has been a blast ever since. Now, I am very wary. I am very wary of those kinds of stories because they're not representative of the majority. This is anecdotal evidence. And in fact, when I look at the negative side of evangelism, I'm going to mention how these testimonies of the positive effects of salvation, how they are detrimental to people who actually need help. Because at the end of the day, Jesus is not the answer. Like Jesus doesn't, he doesn't fix you. It can be, there are a few individuals who report positive change, but then there are many others who do not undergo any change. Salvation is not able to solve their problems. Okay, and so let me now get into the negative effects of evangelism. And I will start with that one. I think evangelism, Christian evangelism specifically, leads to persistent problems because it sells you a lie. It tells you that if you come to the Lord, you will overcome your struggle. Let's say you are an addict, you're an alcohol addict, a drug addict, a porn addict, a sex addict, and an evangelist or a street preacher tells you, come to Jesus, he will set you free. You go to him believing that that is indeed the case. But then maybe you're able to quit alcohol or you're able to quit porn for a few weeks. And then after that, you revert back to your old habits. I personally know of a friend who's been struggling with this. In fact, I got in touch with him just yesterday to hear how he's doing. He was called at a crusade, and he was apparently delivered from his addictions. He had like 6 addictions, including, I don't know whether it was cocaine or heroin, marijuana, porn, commercial sex, etc. He had so many addictions, and he claimed to have been delivered by a Nigerian pastor, that God was his solution. But then I followed up with him like 3 months later. He was back to the same pit. So Jesus did not solve it. And that belief in the power of salvation, that this mythical being will save me, is what causes many believers to remain in their troubles. Yeah, because the change is usually just temporary, often brought about by the euphoria, that placebo effect. It comes about initially, but then afterwards, you still regress back to the same problem. Because if salvation or evangelism or Jesus was the solution to addiction, we would not have any addiction centers in this world. We would not have any hospitals, we would not have any psychiatrists, because the solution would just have been there. But you find majority of cases are not helped. It's those few who come out, those few anecdotes who come out and give their testimonies. So it is a problem, because it leads, evangelism leads to persistent problems. You don't go for the best solution, the empirically backed solution. You go for the testimonial solution, for the prevalent solution, which is superstitious, and it is not evidence-based. So that's one effect. Another one, which is closely related to that one, is learned helplessness. And this is a particularly endemic problem in Africa, our continent. Many people are busy waiting around for Jesus to come and save them because of the evangelical message. You hear many preachers. In fact, Eston once shared with me a video by a young lady. She looked like she was 19 or 20 years, and she was preaching at Kenya Archives right there near the Tomboya statue. And she was saying, you don't need wealth. You don't need education. Your business will not satisfy you. Your wife will not satisfy you. You just need Jesus. Just come to Jesus. So if people internalize that message, they will become passive in their lives. They won't take action necessary in order to cause a positive change. So if it's your business, instead of working on your business, instead of looking for better suppliers, instead of marketing your business some more, you just wait on the Lord, because you've been told by the evangelist that all you need is Jesus. You don't need money. You don't need women. You don't need your business. You don't need all those. You don't need politics. You just need Jesus. Yeah. So it promotes learned helplessness, and this is particularly unique to Christian evangelism. Another effect is it leads to, it demeans the value of this life, because it keeps talking about the afterlife. They preach a lot of hell. They preach a lot of hell. They preach a lot of eternal damnation, right? A lot of eternal damnation. And so they make you focus on what will happen when you die, rather than you concentrating on what you are going to do now while you are alive. And in fact, I think Steve has read my mind, because that was the fourth outcome of evangelism that I wanted to address, and that is guilt-tripping members. A lot of evangelists, a lot of street preachers like to talk about sin, and as I told you guys, I have a problem with the concept of sin, because it's not morality per se. It is transgression against divine law. So you have to first believe in that God and the rules that God gave in order for sin to apply to you. So they make you feel guilty for things that are actually harmless, or they're not so bad. They're not moral. They're not immoral, those things, but they guilt trip you about them. So for instance, they will make you feel guilty about lustful thoughts. Surely, which human being can avoid lustful thoughts? You create this self-hatred in individuals because of that kind of messaging. Or there's masturbation. And we are assuming here it's not the addictive kind, it's just regular self-care. But they make you feel so guilty about it. Or they'll talk about women who are defying gender roles, because according to their God, women are not supposed to exercise leadership, etc. So that is a problem. Or, as we know recently, there's the issue of the LGBT community. They really like to attack gay people, they like to attack trans people, and it can foster an us versus them mentality. It can breed division in society, and division that is based on myths. Okay, so we know that there's no love, like there's no hate like Christian love. Yeah, I think that's how we phrase it. There's no hate like Christian love. So they're always picking groups here and there that they like to attack, especially recently the gay community has really been at the receiving end of this. And of course, lastly, is that one of it being a public nuisance. They cause noise pollution in public spaces, in markets, in buses, in streets, and in our estates. I am particularly disturbed by that one, because you can be in a church where there are just 4 people in the kesha, but they have all these loudspeakers out there because tunaeneza neno la Bwana, injili ya Bwana. Oh, it is really problematic. Even the believers themselves, even the Christians themselves, have an issue with that one. Now, I want to leave you guys with a question. I know I've spoken for long, but I want to leave you guys with a question, and maybe even Stando tried to allude to it. But how do you evangelize as an atheist? How do you evangelize as an atheist while avoiding those problems that believers? Some of those problems we won't have them because our beliefs are not based on superstition. Our belief, this one of not believing in God, is not based on superstition. It is based on evidence. So we'll avoid some of those issues. However, there are others that we might run into depending on the tact that we use. So I'm asking you guys, how can atheists evangelize in a sustainable way, in a way that won't cause some of those negative outcomes, like the one the pragmatist mentioned, of us being called a cult or things like this. So yeah, that's my final word. Thank you.
That is great. Let's hear from Ryoki.
Okay, thanks, Dan. I don't know if Doctor and pragmatists will agree with me. At times, if you evangelize, you can bring a low self-esteem. How if people reject you, like if you preach, like I remember somebody, I won't say her name, in a bus, in a public vehicle, and somebody was preaching, then she got up to put them off, that they have no right to preach. So at times also, if you preach and you're rejected by people, it might bring low self-esteem. Yeah, I don't know if doctors can agree with that. In pragmatics, if you talk to people, they put you down, they say watch away. It can also bring a low self-esteem. Then also another thing I want to say is okay, a doctor's question: how can atheists evangelize? I think if you do more public things, like more video shoots, more hangouts, more philanthropic work, like going to schools, homes, doing more work, then people can notice what we are doing. Automatically, they'll be interested in who we are. Then we can evangelize naturally. Yeah, thanks.
Murioki, on that point, you're doing good work to the society without identify yourself. Is that a good?
Yeah, eventually they'll be interested. Who are these? Of course, they'll be interested. Who are these people? Then you tell them now, this is who we are. That's more powerful. If you do more, if you increase our video shoots, hangouts, philanthropic work, they'll take notice and say, who are these? Then it will come automatically. My view.
So you should not identify yourself unless you are being asked.
Yes, and of course, it will come. It will come, of course, eventually. It will come eventually. It will come. Who are you? Then now you say, this is who we are.
Okay, but I don't agree with that because for me, I need to introduce myself first. Then if you have a question, you can ask later. For example, like my position, if I say to one person, I'm an atheist, and that person is a Christian, and they fear his calling or her calling will just be interested to hear my part, will not inform that person am I atheist. For example, if it's for example, when we visit like children or the student in college or secondary, the teacher will not inform the children, and we fail to introduce ourselves who we are. So that that is hiding identity directly by telling only a teacher.
Stano, I'm saying like you go somewhere, you do something, then after you say, they'll ask, you say, you know what, we are atheists. They'll be like, what? Shock them, and they'll start thinking, they'll be shocked. Really? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is good. Now, okay. So pragmatics, you wanted to say something, not to comment?
I think I wanted to say something, but it got lost. It disappeared. That's why I dropped my head.
Okay, fine. So our next thing is, I think here in this point, I think we agree, although we can divide it, is what are your view? Do we support evangelists to continue preaching in public, or should we support them to be banned from preaching in public? What is your view on that? Should we ban them, or should we should allow them to continue? Government to allow them to continue, or to restrict them? And in this point, I can also ask, if we want some to be banned and some not to be banned, which criteria can we use to determine which people are not supposed to be allowed to preach, or in which manner should not approach the people in public? Okay, Dorocas?
Kindly repeat that question.
Can you accept those who are doing evangelist to be banned from preaching in public transport, in matatos, or in a public area? Or should we allow them to continue doing whatever they are doing?
Oh, right after I answer my question. Hii video yangu inasumbua. Admin, can you try and turn on my camera? I don't know if that's possible. Okay. I see I'm on. Great. So let me answer my question, and then I'll answer the moderator's question. The question I had asked is, how do atheists evangelize? I think, as I said before, I am pro-evangelism. I think society would be better off without religion. How are people ever going to adopt good ideas and discard bad ideas if we never talk about them? How are we going to bury our heads in the sand and let the delusional people run the show if we never speak up? So I am for atheist evangelism, but it should not be done in the believer's way, in the Christian way. I it, or some of their tactics, or some of their methodologies. That word, tongue twister. So one of the ways we can do it is through one-on-one conversations. I really empathize with Juliana's position when she said that she hasn't come out publicly to many people, and there are repercussions. I totally hear where she's coming from. When you go all out in front of so many people, it might have certain repercussions that maybe she's not ready to deal with. So it might not be appropriate for all atheists to go public like that, like, to go to a forum where there are many people and then they start speaking about atheism. They might not be endowed with that skill, or they might not be ready to deal with the repercussions. However, you can still harness opportunities when you are discussing issues with people. For instance, I've told you guys, our mama bloggers and the watchmen, the border drivers, they all know that I'm an atheist. And it always just begins with one conversation. Just me and you, me and this one person, one conversation. And how do I start it? I don't start with, why are you a Christian? It's usually when they tell me something biblical or something Christian. Don't worry, God will take charge. God will never give you more than you can't handle. So at that point, I see an opportunity and I tell them, but I don't believe in God. So the moment I tell them that, they'll always be curious. Not all. Some will be like, okay, so. But others will be like, really? Why? And then we start a conversation. I'll tell them, because I cannot see your God, I cannot hear your God, I cannot detect your God. I'll tell them about all the other reasons why one would question belief. So it is important to harness those one-on-one opportunities when somebody implies that God will take care of you, or when somebody asks you to pray for an issue, or let's say you have a sick member of the family and they tell you, just put it in God's hands. By the way, if you do, you'll get a miracle. No, once they tell you such kind of bullshit, then you need to call them out on it. And that will start off a conversation. So I really am for dialogues, having dialogues with day-to-day people. I do that. I can't finish like 2 weeks without having a conversation about atheism. I remember in the last walk marathon, we were talking about gay people, and I found that I was the only person defending gay people. The rest of them were homophobic. Eventually, I told them that I'm an atheist. I told several people. We had already had those conversations, but now I told all of them. And it opened up. I didn't get, by the way, such a backlash. The backlash was against gay people, but not against atheists. I didn't get a backlash, actually. I actually just sparked curiosity from them. So harness those opportunities, those one-on-one conversations. I think they are great. Other ways we can do it is through, obviously, social media and traditional media. But traditional media, maybe, as I said, not everybody has the skill to do it, or the wherewithal. But I think appearing on TV, especially, sometimes it might not even be a debate per se about the God belief. It could just be a moral issue. We need to have an atheist as a panelist. Whenever we have those moral issues, we might have a politician, we might have a psychiatrist, and then a Christian, okay, or sometimes even a Muslim. but there's never any atheist in those panels. So I think the moment we get registered, because I don't want to go out there speaking on behalf of SAS-K when we are not legally recognized. But once we get registered, I'll be seeking out. If I check out on a social media page of Citizen TV that on Daybreak show, they're going to talk about infidelity in marriage, I can go there and talk about it from a secular perspective, from an evidence-based perspective, such that people now start hearing, oh, kumbe these people are so rational. Of all the people, the Christian is just saying that your fornicating is bad, but they're not giving good reasons. But this atheist is talking about the possibility of paternal uncertainty or STDs. You know, she's using evidence. She's using evidence to support her claim that can work towards our cause. So traditional media appearing on TV, on shows that have nothing to do with God, but giving that secular perspective, I think that will be very helpful for us. Then, of course, there's social media. And maybe some people might be shy about using their personal social media platforms. Create a social media profile for atheism. You can call yourself maybe the vegan atheist, the big vegan Afro atheist. Yeah, and you start a TikTok channel or an Instagram profile with that name. And then you start commenting. You start commenting when you see some evangelical things here and there. You start chatting. You might never even show your face, and people might never even know your identity. You just go by vegan Afro atheist. And you are out there spreading the message without exposing your identity. And that way you are able to protect yourself from those negative outcomes that the pragmatist mentioned, or that Juliana mentioned, of people possibly ostracizing you. Lastly, I know actually verbal diarrhea, I talked so much. So the final approach that one can employ is debates. Debates in universities. Universities are usually very open to new ideas, and they like hosting such platforms. So if we can get connections in some of these public universities, and if you guys know some people, we would gladly, I know we have very many atheists among us who would gladly show up in those debates. Yeah, and that would get the message out there. As you've noticed, I've not suggested going to the streets. I totally oppose that, because it's going to be a public nuisance. Not going to the streets, not going to markets or buses, or using loudspeakers anywhere. No, we don't want to be a nuisance. But there are other marketing tactics that we can successfully employ to get to normalize atheism. Thank you. Now, I have not answered this question.
Yeah, answer that question.
Okay.
So do we allow the people to go to the market to do evangelist?
No.
Like a preacher?
No. I totally oppose that kind of behavior. It contradicts the purpose of those places. When you go to the market, you're there to buy items. You're not there to be preached to. Or when you are in a bus, you're just moving from point A to B. It's not your goal to be evangelized. So anything that is a public nuisance that causes noise pollution should be banned, regardless of whether they are believers or not. Even those people that sell herbal medicine, salespeople in public places, in buses, and they're shouting, they should be banned. We need to be a serene society. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Eston, then we come to Juliana.
So the question is, should the Christians be allowed to evangelize? In my opinion, yes.
In public, like in market
Yes,
and the
yes.
matatus.
Okay, yes, but what they should be prevented from doing is polluting the air, like they do in the churches where they put speakers aloud, or in some crusades where they put speakers aloud near residential places. That is what should be banned. But evangelizing, I don't think it should be banned because it's freedom of expression. But now it should have limits where you do not start doing what, where you should not invade the other people's private spaces. Yeah, that's my take.
That is good. So we can also should be allowed to preach even in matatus and in market, as long as they are not causing noise pollution or much noise. Let's hear from
Yes.
Juliana.
Okay. Should they be allowed to evangelize in those places? Absolutely yes. Just like El Maestro has said, there should be conditions. Here's why I say they should be allowed. Let's look at it from a money generating purpose. They should be allowed on a few conditions. Number one, they get a license to occupy that space for a certain amount of time. So if it's a market, we'll say you can preach there for only 30 minutes or only 1 hour, and it's going to cost you X. You write them a license. And with that license will come conditions. You cannot do this, you cannot do that, you cannot use a huge speaker that is as loud as this, you cannot force people to contribute, you cannot. Yeah, let's do that. And that way anyone is free to go and preach, just like freedom of expression, but these are the conditions. You get a license between this time and that time. And if you violate that license, it's taken away and you might get a fine. Absolutely. We should not just have anyone just getting into a matatu and preaching. Actually, I'm curious that the matatu owners allow that to happen. Like if I was a matatu owner and somebody got on my matatu without pay, first of all, they would have to pay. And second of all, I'll say, no, you're not disturbing my customers. I want to play them music because I want to play them pop music or reggae music or whatever music they like. I remember those days when I used to work, we used to like matatus for a certain particular type of music. So you go to, I don't know what that place was called, just opposite the railway station. That was like a central place. Depending on what music I wanted to listen to, that's the matatu I got into. So I was being entertained and I was being sent home. Now, if I am allowed to evangelize, I'll even have those matatus that allow preaching. So if I'm a Christian, I will go to those matatus. If I'm a Muslim, I'll go to a Muslim matatu. And exactly. So they have to be allowed. I encourage them to be allowed with some rules that's fair to everyone. So saying that they shouldn't, first of all, it's difficult. They'll probably will, but I think just put it out there. Yes, you can. Here's what you pay, and you only stay there for half an hour so that someone else can come in and preach. Because it might be like however many, 10 preachers. So it's unfair to only one preacher to occupy that space. You say, no, there's 10 of you. So each one gets half an hour, 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 etc. So yes, let's do it, but let's have conditions attached to that freedom.
What about the person who is solo, going around, walking around, preaching? You
Not
have
allowed
not a
to.
specific area, no specific area.
Yeah, that shouldn't be allowed. If it is, say, market, so we sort of define a boundary. Say this is your boundary. If you have to walk around, this is your boundary. You can't go outside this. Like these are the rules you identify in this license, so that you're not taking advantage of people. And most important is no preaching in residential areas, please. That's what I would say, because those are private areas. They're not public spaces. Market, public. Hospital, maybe, but outside. So these are the rules that can be defined once we license, we go the route of licensing. And one of the things we can also say, what the licensing will do is it will generate some revenue, especially for the city council. That way, if this preacher comes and is throwing pieces of paper all over the place, somebody can come and be able to clean it up afterwards. Okay, that's all I had.
Now we are in our last topic to conclude. How do you evangelize in a way that can't cause negative, or you can avoid some negativity? I will just mention a few. How to evangelize such a way that you don't cause any negativity that we have already mentioned, like noise pollution and whatever. So, first of all, is to do it with respect. Pay attention to whether someone seems busy, stressed, or open to interaction. If they don't respond, respect their space and time. Okay, the other one is to just you ask for permission before you have a discussion. If the person is not interested, we do not grant you permission. So if we grant you permission, you can continue with the conversation. The other one is how you approach someone. So don't just approach in a way that that person will get annoyed, or you just distract him or her. So you must be approach such person in a respectful way. This is for both Christian and Islamic who are doing evangelist, and also atheists who are trying to also to do somehow evangelist if you are doing it in person. So let's hear from Murioki.
Thanks, Tano. If I break, tell me. I've changed my position. So if I break, please tell me. Okay, for me, I'll say it should be forbidden. Because if you notice, like in Kenya, it's mostly Christians who do it. The Hindus don't do it. Muslims don't do it. It's Christians. And then it's lies. They're spreading lies. So why allow lies? So for me, it should be told they should be do it in church, do it behind closed doors, because it's all lies. That's the reason. You see, it's a freedom of expression, but this for me is not, because you're lying. We know they are lies, so just keep it behind closed doors. Thanks.
Okay, here I can correct you. They don't know whether they are doing they are giving lies. So for them, they are genuine. So they should be, as what we have agreed, they should be allowed to preach, to do evangelist, but in a regulated way. So the only thing that we can say is for them, before they come to approach somebody, they must consider whether those people whether are interested to listen to them or to have conversation with them. And also they should do it in a respectful way, not to tell somebody, if you don't do this, you go to hell. You don't listen to me, you go to hell. those coerce or threat, that is disrespecting the people or the audience.
But
So
Stano, can you control that? They're Christian. Can you do that Christian and not to mention hell? How do you control that? They'll mention hell for sure. It's going to come up.
no,
The hell.
okay. I'm just giving a piece of advice to evangelists, how they should approach the people.
Okay. For me, I think just being behind closed doors, or maybe stand house to house, like Jehovah's Witnesses. You go from house to house. If you're rejected, go to the next house. Like in the streets, in the public places, it's surely lies in a public place. For me, it should be forbidden. My view.
So for you, you are the same opinion with the Dorcas. They should be banned
in public,
from public.
Do like Jehovah's Witness. Go from house to house. If somebody says no, go to the next house. No, but in public, nah. And you're lying to people. You're lying.
Okay, fine. Let's hear from Dorcas. And remember, we are finalizing.
Okay. Remind me, what was the question again? Stano, what was the question?
Yeah. How do you evangelize in a way that can't cause negative? This is like a kind of advice to those who are doing evangelism.
Okay. Yes. I think it is a good idea to read the room. You mustn't give unsolicited advice or information. It must be consensual. You must be invited, or at least the person should be amenable to your idea. But you imposing yourself on them won't differentiate you from those annoying street preachers. So, number one, read the room, look at the mood of the person, and see whether they are receptive to hearing a contrary idea. Number two, be calm, because if the temperatures rise and it's like you're fighting this person, then that's only going to build their defenses. They won't listen to you objectively. They're just going to be waiting for that moment when they can antagonize and oppose you when it's their turn to speak. So try and be calm. Like I remember Alex O'Connor, previously the Cosmic Skeptic, appeared in a podcast or a video by a YouTube channel called Jubilee, where they get one person to meet 25 people with a contrary opinion. So Alex O'Connor was the only atheist, and there were 25 Christians. And he was so cool, calm, and collected. Everybody was raving, including Christians themselves. On the comments, they were raving how he handled them so maturely. He wishes more atheists were like him. So yes, instead of breathing fire, I think it is a good idea to be calm and collected and to just criticize, because I'm not saying don't criticize, please criticize, but to criticize it in a calm and objective way. Number three is to avoid uncommon ground. One of the secrets to persuasion is to start with things that you both agree on. I think it was Chilwave who gave a summary on how atheists can talk more about atheism to believers, that he was saying in that summary, he was actually reading a book about it, about persuading people to take on contrary opinions. It said you need to start with, let's say, the semi-solid foods, just the way we wean children with soft foods, or you start with porridge, and then you go to mashed food, and then eventually you give them solid food. So with believers, let's find common grounds, things that we both oppose. You see, like the lack of separation between church and state, what President Ruto is doing with the churches, those donations. Many Christians agree or disagree with that behavior from the president. Him using his powers in order to advance his agenda. Many disagree with that. So we can start with such a perspective. Yeah, you start with the low-hanging fruits before you go to the other more controversial aspects. I think Christians, some hell and fire-breathing Christians missed that memo. Once they start saying, you are a fornicator, you are a sinner, you are doing this and this, that just pushes people away. It doesn't draw them near. So I think that's another approach I would suggest. Focus on what you have in common first, that you agree on, but is a problem in religion. Yeah? You start with that, and then now you get to other things. Now, I needed to respond to some of the things that have been said. And firstly, let me start with Morioki, because Morioki was saying that another strategy atheists can use is good works, charity, visiting children's homes. And he was saying that you need not say who you are. And he was trying to justify it. I've heard this from Morioki many times, and I vehemently disagree with it. I don't even see the logic in it. I don't know why you keep pushing this narrative, Morioki. You keep saying that it will be more powerful when you help the orphans, but you don't say who you are. That eventually they will come to know about you. Why such an indirect approach? Eventually when? Where? Who will follow up? Why go for that very indirect route? Why pass through Mtito Andei, Taita Taveta, when you just want to get here to Mombasa Road General Motors? Why go through all that? Why not just mention that you are atheists? You might not get into why or blah, blah, blah. But just mention that you are atheist. You are saying that it will be more powerful. In the end, they'll become curious. But no, they won't. Look at the children's home we visited, the one for the girls. We were not allowed to tell them who we are, although me nili mentioned kichini chini, nili mentioned once. And in fact, I think the only person who noted was the administrator, because we said it in English. Those girls, iliwapita tu hivi kama upepo, in one ear and out the other. It was never emphasized because we didn't speak, we didn't say it in Kiswahili. Tukisema sisi ni watu wenye hatuamini Mungu. Or we didn't do a skit like we did the last time about watu wenye hawaamini Mungu. Yeah. So those girls, I'm sure they get so many visitors. They get so many of them, and they probably forgot about us. Like, there's no curiosity there. Hakuna. That was a lost chance. And I just disagree with you completely, Morioki, on that aspect of it being more powerful. How? When you're hiding who you are, you're closeted. Anyway, I also wanted to comment on Juliana's proposal, because she was talking about, and Eston, they were saying people should be allowed in markets, and only that it should be regulated. But do you know, those markets, they sound like like a lunatic's asylum. Hiyo kelele yenye inapigwangwa huko, naendanga Githurai market. I go to Githurai market 2 or 3 times a week. And it is absurd. Already the market is noisy since the buyers are talking to different buyers, are talking to different vendors. It's already noisy. And then now there's somebody who's trying to rise above that noise with their speaker preaching, just causing a mess. Now you guys have to shout to counter the shouting of the preacher. It's craziness. No, we need sanity in our public spaces. If they have to preach, let them use their churches, let them use social media, let them pay for advertising on regular media, let them go out there. We need sanity in our cities. It's insane. You guys think that we can be able to tell them, it's okay, you can preach, but you reduce, they can't reduce their voice. If they do, then no one will hear them because already it's a public space and it's very noisy. So mi siko hapo na nyinyi at all. Let public places be sane. Let them be used for the purpose which they were intended. Unless it's a speaker's corner. You know, like in universities. In universities, we have something like a speaker's corner, or in places like Jivanji Gardens, we have a speaker's corner. But wasitumie loudspeakers. Let people congregate around them if they're interested in what they're doing. But kusikue hapo na loudspeakers. I'm really against noise pollution. I'm against you being a public nuisance. So I know I've spoken for long, but I just needed to ask you guys one last question related to what Morioki said. Do you have a problem with the door-to-door preaching? I know Morioki doesn't. He seems to be okay with it. But what about you guys? Do you think it is? Okay, thank you.
Okay, that is nice. Give my computer. It's about to shut down, but it will take some time. So let's hear from Juliana. And even Juliana, you can try to respond to what Dorcas have said about allowing those people, evangelist.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity. And yeah, Dorcas, you do raise a point about the noise level. Yeah, that could be hard to control, especially in a place, but I don't know. Just some suggestions I was putting out there. Actually, talking about noise levels. So one of the things that happens on the street here, people who sort of play music on the street, we have lots of those, especially when it's warm. But those guys don't just play anywhere. They actually have to get a license from the city to occupy that space. And they have to have the speakers at a certain level. So that sort of controls the noise level. But that's a long way to get, I know, in Kenya and the marketplaces. Now, your question on door-to-door preaching. Actually, same thing, door-to-door preaching or door-to-door campaigning. Anybody coming to my door to sell something, I'm putting it all in the same category. It's a freedom of somebody selling their wares or explaining. They're free to come. Me, as the person whose door they're coming to, I am free to let them in or not. So I can literally shut my door and say, you're not coming here. Or if I see them, I don't open my door. And actually, I've done that once in a while. If I have not invited you and you ring my bell, I am not coming to the door because I value my privacy and my space. But if I wanted to hear you preach to me or sell to me or do something, then I'll open my door. So I have no problem with that. It's just being able to control how they come into my door. It might be tough in some situations where you don't have a door that you can close, but same thing applies. You say, I'm sorry, this is not the time, go away. So I don't have a problem with that. So another thing that just occurred to me, how to evangelize. I remember when I was at the University of Nairobi, an undergrad student actually, we had this cult called the Reverend Moonism, I think it's called, and Opus Dei. These guys used to come on campus, and the way they used to recruit students, even somebody like me, because I went to a few of those meetings, is they used to come and offer something nice. So like the moon guys came and offered, I think they invited us to their place, they offered us good food. And so as a student, I'm always hungry. So of course I went to their place once because I wanted to eat. But then after going there and I'm seeing, I don't think so. So I left. So atheists could try something like that. Have a place and invite people and have some food. So once you have people there, people say there's nothing like a free lunch. So once they're there, then I'll start saying, okay, here's why I invited you here. I am trying to do this. What do you think? So I'm inviting people to come to my space, and then I am sharing the mess with them as opposed to going out there and yelling at them from the street. So that could be another strategy. And again, it all takes money. If we had money, then we could even be able to rent space, like in a hall somewhere, have some food, invite people. Just like, and when I look at other, I think Dorcas is right. Like when you're doing good deeds, you might as well share your name. When I look at growing up, I don't know if they're still doing this, but the Aga Khan Foundation, the Salvation Army, those guys used to do things in the, you'd see them. And so that's why I was attracted to them, like, especially Salvation Army. They ran the school for the blind. I was so impressed by that. So I wanted to join Salvation Army. So as atheists, when we do something good, spread it out there instead of hiding. So when we say give food to, when we have money and we go give food to some people, let's spread it out there. Have our banner, atheist, free food or free clothes or whatever it is. That is how we get known, and people associate our deeds with atheists. But it requires money, which I know one day we will have. And that's all I had to say. Thanks.
Yeah, that's nice. Murioki?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I just want to tell Dorcas, right? Like last time, you do your deed, then you call afterwards and tell them who you are. Now, these last people, when they heard you are atheist, they refuse to pick phone calls. So too bad. So the next time you go, then you call them. If they say it's okay, you go again. Because some will refuse. When they hear that you're atheist, they'll refuse. So you go do your deed, then call them and say, we are atheists. Like when you come next time, yes or no. If they say yes, you go. If they say no, you don't go. Fine, thanks. Then Sanu, about the door-to-door pitching, I think it's the best thing to do, door-to-door, because you knock at the door, then somebody opens, tell them who you are. If they refuse, fine. If they agree, yes. So for me, door-to-door is the best. Thanks.
Okay, even for me, I will agree with that. Door-to-door evangelism is the best because you are going first of all to ask for permission. If the person allow you to enter, to share what you have about Christianity or Islamic or whatever, then you can go ahead. So, but for public, unless there is a strict rule, I don't think is necessary for now. Okay.
Stanu, about what I said about you go do your deeds and call later. Why is that? You make sure you call them later and see if they are firm or not.
What?
You go to a place like you go to a children's home, then you don't say who you are. Then after you call them and say you are atheist. Can you come next time?
I think they will not disagree. They will accept, or it's because you are giving them something. Just the way Julian have said, in a way of attracting people. You can look for a hotel. You invite people. You eat some breakfast or lunch. Then you share whatever you have with them. So those people will not feel offended because you are doing something. They are benefiting somehow as you share your idea.
But
so the same case when you are visiting the children and you are giving them something, they are getting some benefit. So even if when you share some, you are one review or your idea, they will not feel much offended, because as long as you have given them something, unless they evaluate and see whatever you have given them and this idea you are giving them is not matching, and they decided not to invite you or not to welcome you back. So,
Yeah,
but as long as you are doing something in return, that I think is highly recommendable.
They refused to pick our phone calls, Stano. The last home after they knew it is, they refused our phone calls. In fact, we can't go back there again. We'll never go back there again. They were rejected because we are atheists.
Remember my point, I have said we can evaluate about these people hearing who we are, comparing to what we have given them. That is the thing that will give them the decision whether to welcome us back or to welcome a certain group back or not.
But Stano, we gave so much. Remember, we gave so much. Even Doctors knows we gave them so much, and they still
yeah.
were rejected.
Do you know?
We gave so much.
Yeah. Do you know there is evaluation? Maybe I can give you 1 billion, but you compare that billion with what I'm telling you. You say better, I go back with my billion. So it depends with the people's opinion, and maybe they need us back, but you don't know. Not picking phone call is not a good reason they don't want you back. That is not enough reason. Yeah, I think we are concluding. So anyone who have something to share before we conclude? Steve, you are still unable to speak. Okay, Dorcas, you can finalize. Thank you, Steve. And I also remember there is something that you mentioned about the negative, about coercion. The evangelists, they can coerce somebody to give his or her wealth to them, claiming that you are supporting the ministry. So you end up going poor, or you end up surrendering your wealth, your car, or your plot to them because of that kind of manipulation. Yeah. Dorcas, you can finalize.
Great. Thank you, Stano, for that excellent moderation. By the way, now that you are remembering something and adding, I'm also remembering something. In fact, I spent a considerable time looking at this angle in terms of the effects of evangelism, and that is erosion of cultural identity. When the colonialists came to our nation, they were in cahoots with the missionaries who were here to evangelize. That's what brought them here. However, those missionaries also annihilated our indigenous cultural practices. They associated every African practice, every African traditional practice with the devil. You are to ostracize it, you are to abandon it and to take on European ways of life before you join a mission school. So evangelism is really a problem. And in fact, when you see uncontacted tribes in the Amazon, in Brazil, we have many uncontacted people, and missionaries and evangelists have been looking at them as fertile ground, because clearly these are people who've never heard of the gospel message. So they go there and then they erode the culture of those people. And they tell them that what you believe is of the devil, ours is the truth. So yeah, I needed to throw that in there. But in summary, thank you so much, guys, for your participation. It was quite an engaging discussion. Thank you, Pragmatist, who left at some point, but he had some solid ideas to share. Thank you, Eston, for your perspective. Thank you, Morioki, especially for your questions. Thank you, Juliana, for making time. Today, at least you are able to participate in the discussion. Sometimes you can be busy. Well done. Steve, we were there, seeing you on the sidelines, commenting here and there on the chat. Even though you weren't able to speak, at least we felt your presence in the meeting. And of course, last but not least, is the moderator. You had very thought-provoking questions for us. So thank you so much. Guys, remember, please, let's continue contributing towards our event this coming week. No amount is too small. And remember, you can donate anonymously. Your name can be hidden from public view. So guys, I wish you all a good night. Let's meet next Friday.
Let's evangelize too.
Yes, let's evangelize.
We should.
Good night and a
Good
good
night.
morning for those who are